It's Saturday, August 29th, 2020. Welcome to Forbidden Planet 42, celebrating 42 glorious years of the Forbidden Planet store in London and 42 years of trying to answer the ultimate question to life, the universe, and everything. Now, Forbidden Planet, for all its success, has always been an independently run family outfit. And we're kicking everything off with a very special interview with the family without whom there wouldn't be any Forbidden Planet stores, our sinister owners and the first couple of UK pop culture, Dr. Vivian Cheung and Mr. Nick Landau. Vivian and Nick, it's great to see you. You're both looking very happy, especially you, Nick. How are you?
Hi, Andrew. Thank you for that lovely intro. This is a very special occasion for us. We wanted to give a little back to the community that has supported us through so many years. This is a big thank you from Nick and I to all of you.
And we wanted to thank every creator who has ever signed for us. And believe it or not, I think we're over 2,000 signings in our 42-year history. Above all, we want to thank the staff who've been with us, many of whom have been with us for the last 20 or 30 years, and also our customers, without whom none of us would exist. So thank you very much, and welcome to Forbidden Planet 42, the celebration.
Well said, guys. And Nick, I can see that that you even have one of the world famous Forbidden Planet plastic bags just behind your desk there.
Yeah. So basically I have a couple of things behind the desk. So I suppose the first thing is as you identified, the plastic bag. Now, there's a little bit of history there because when back in the day, we used to think of ourselves as this tiny little store that, you know, maybe just a few people and customers knew about. One day we went to the movies and we saw this film called Shallow Grave. And we kind of freaked out because there was a scene in which I think it was Ewan McGregor was interviewing some potential roommates. And there were 3 or 4 different types of characters, one of whom was a geek. And the geek brought this Forbidden Planet plastic bag along. And for a whole 5 minutes, the camera was focused on the Forbidden Planet plastic bag. So it was, you know, I mean, I personally think the plastic bag should have had a screen credit, but, you know, I guess that's just me. The other story is really relates to this wonderful piece of Brian Bolland artwork.
So that's a bit of a Bolland Judge Dredd artwork, if I'm not mistaken. I actually have that issue of 2000 AD that it originally appeared in. That's where it's from, right, Nick?
Yeah, that's one of the Judge Child Quest episodes. Now, back in the day, you know, before Forbidden Planet, I used to be the editor of 2000 AD. I was the second or third editor, depending on whether you say Pat Mills was the first, Kelvin the second, myself the third. And so it was very instrumental in the sagas like The Cursed Earth. You know, that was my period there. Anyway, so back after that, Brian was selling some of his work, and I picked up this wonderful piece, which I happen to have behind me. And Brian, of course, is actually part of the Forbidden Planet 42 celebration.
Part of FP42. We've got a great interview with him, which you'll be able to see here just after you've watched this piece, in fact. Now, Nick, just a bit more about being Tharg, right? So basically, because that's the deal, isn't it? You know, when you're the editor of 2000 AD, you bring on the mantle of Tharg the alien. Am I right?
Absolutely, yeah. In fact, while I was there, we actually created Tharg. I think it was Kevin O'Neill who got this caveman mask for 50 pence. Or whatever the financial equivalent would have been back in those days, down the market. And he dressed it up, and he put a little bit of a hairpiece on the back, and he painted around it. And then suddenly Tharg was created. So each of us, in turn, you know, wore the Tharg mantle. And you know, during that time, we came up with during the time of working with Kevin, we came up with the art droids and the script droids in order to give people credits. So Tharg actually had turned from this you know, rather difficult alien with this spaceship that was actually Kingsreach Tower, which was where we worked.
And where I used to work also as well. Yeah.
Sorry, you worked there. You worked there as well.
It's where the loading offices were. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. In fact, I think it was on the same floor, the 20th floor, wasn't it?
Yeah, very close. Yeah, absolutely right.
Yeah, yeah. So, so he turned from this, you know, this guy, this alien who was looking after this spaceship through, and was rather fearsome and, you know, dismissive of humans, to actually giving writers and artists credit. So, you know, we have, you know, Tharg to be thankful for that under Kevin and Kelvin and, you know, myself.
Yeah, well said. I mean, you know, Tharg, of course, Splendid Verthrig is a British pop culture and comics icon. So, guys, what memories stand out the most for both of you over 42 years of running Forbidden Planet?
Back in the day, Chris Claremont, who was the writer of the X-Men, big Anglophile, very good friend of ours, and I think more than 3 times he actually destroyed Forbidden Planet in one of the X-Men or X-Force comics. So you'd see alien craft hovering over Forbidden Planet, actually destroying within the comic Forbidden Planet. So that was kind of like a really nice credit for FP. Later on, he went to create these characters called Landau, Lake, and Luckman, who were an intergalactic law firm that actually, you know, controlled a portion of the Marvel universe. And what was very funny was the fact that no one actually knew that Landau, Lake, and Luckman actually existed. But, you know, to give a tip of the hat to Mike Lake and Mike Luckman, who at the time were working with me at Forbidden Planet, we were the guys who became Landau, Lake, and Luckman. And then over the years, those characters have been evolved, and the people who wrote about them did not know who they were. In fact, no one really ever knew who they were. So that was kind of interesting. Now, in FP terms, we had Douglas Adams's very first signing ever, and when we did that, Douglas actually wrote about it in his autobiography, and he devoted the first 6 pages of his autobiography to talking about this signing, which somehow became the biggest signing ever in the world. Now, you know, Douglas was, you know, was a brilliant writer, and, you know, he's, of course, you know, very instrumental in why we're celebrating today. And so he sort of did slightly over-exaggerate the scale of the signing. I mean, it sounded like, you know, the Q went off planet, the way he described it. You know, it was a good memory to have. And again, we were shocked, you know, because again, we were just this little store. And so anytime we ever got referenced outside of the context of the store, it was quite something. Also remember a good friend of Vivian's and myself bringing a producer called Charlie Lippincott into the store. And Charlie brought in, Charles was actually the guy who was responsible, and I really want to give Charles a shout out here. Charles was the guy who was really responsible for the marketing of Star Wars to the fans. He was the first guy. He's the reason, one of the main reasons that that George Lucas, you know, ended up with a lot of the rights that he's got today, and why Star Wars itself has become a phenomenon, all down to Charlie. So Charlie came into Forbidden Planet. Forbidden Planet at that stage had become a bit of a nexus for people to just come in, because it was this weird little store that people could come in and feel at home at. And so he one day brought in Ridley Scott's producer and said, Ridley's working on this new movie Dune, and maybe you guys could help. So we actually set up a series of meetings with including Brian Bolland and Dave Gibbons to meet Ridley, and being there because of Forbidden Planet, was quite something. But then there was also the actual opening of the new Oxford Street store itself, where we had Adam West come to the. He was our special guest star, from the Batman TV show.
Sure.
And Adam in person was exactly like Adam on screen, and it was wonderful. It was amazing to meet him. We'd hired a Batmobile. There was a super fan who'd had a Batmobile, and we thought it would be really nice to actually bring Adam to the store for the opening in a Batmobile. So there he was going along Oxford Street, and then into New Oxford Street where the store was, did a U-turn right in front of a double-decker bus. And we went, oh my God, we've killed Batman! Because we heard a little crash, and we thought, we've done it. We have actually killed Batman. The Joker, the Riddler, the Catwoman, all those people have tried for years, but we have killed Batman. Oh my God. Anyway, it turned out that, the Batmobile was dented. Adam was fine, got out, got his giant pair of bat scissors, cut the bat rope, and opened the store. And then Shaftesbury Avenue, the actual spectacular splendor of Lee Bolsh, who you'll actually see, in another interview, who is our...
And just briefly, he's our group operations director.
Acronym GOD.
Yeah.
So he is our group god. So he designed the store, and it looks absolutely tremendous. He did an absolutely amazing job.
Fantastic. Well said, Nick. Vivian, what about yourself?
From the early days, Forbidden Planet has always represented popular culture. And, 42 years ago, popular culture was considered to be the underbelly of culture, of social culture. And people came to us from all walks of life, united only by a love for comics and science fiction, and later movies of all types, even, things like giallo and Eastern action martial heroes. So we've been selling comics and science fiction all this time, both of which were out, and since then it was outside of the mainstream. And then shifting forwards to today, everything we sell has now become the mainstream. It defines the mainstream. You see science fiction and comics in all forms of entertainment, movies, television, music, computer games.
Yeah, right on.
Looking back, Forbidden Planet always has had a local pub that the staff would gravitate to after work. Jim Lee came and did a signing, and then he just invited the staff to the pub, bought drinks for everyone, and stayed well over an hour chatting with the staff and shooting the breeze. Even Apollo 11's Buzz Aldrin, the second man on the moon, came to sign his book, proving that science fiction is now science fact.
It's always been my impression that Forbidden Planet's always had a very close connection to the music business as well.
Forbidden Planet was actually born in Denmark Street, right in the heart of London's Tin Pan Alley. And music has always been a key part of our in-store experience, from the customers to the stock that we sell. For me, shooting the breeze with DMC was a real high point. Yeah. He then, after chatting with us, he then did a freestyle rap for our whole crew in the middle of our reception area, and then took some of our staff to a private gig at Abbey Road Studios.
Yeah, I mean, that was pretty amazing, to be honest. That was an amazing thing to witness. And, I remember everybody was so buzzed on that day. That was pretty incredible. What about your music memories, Nick?
Well, as Viv said, Forbidden Planet was birthed in the Tin Pan Alley, which is where the rock musicians used to come to buy their musical instruments. Legend has it that the Rolling Stones formed at the Gioconda Cafe, which was opposite us, and that David Bowie regularly came to buy his instruments in Denmark Street. So consequently, we used to get a lot of rock musicians coming in, and they would, after they bought their instruments, they'd pop into Forbidden Planet, wonder what this rather peculiar little store was, and in a lot of cases just fall in love with it. So I remember that we had people, one day we had Zodiac Mindwarp, which was a hard rock group, and they used to be regular customers. And I had my first celebrity breakfast because they said, "Hey Nick, would you like to come out for some breakfast with us?" Which I thought was kind of unusual because I thought these guys would only be up at night. But anyway, and so he did, and it was like, so there I was sitting at a table with Zodiac himself, Slam Thunderhide, and Kid Chaos.
And Nick Landau. So
yeah,
Mindwarp, Thunderhide, Chaos, Landau.
Yeah, the very ordinary Nick Landau. And it was like, and I was sort of like, what is rock music etiquette? You know, I mean, do you say like pass the salt slam, or Mr. Thunderhide, or Mr. Mindwarp, or Mr. Chaos even, you know? So trying to understand the sort of the etiquette was a little bit of a challenge. And then the other thing, of course, in music terms, is just meeting music heroes like DMC and Alice Cooper, and just the weird, interesting thing is that, you know, thinking, hey, we're going to talk about music, you know, all evening. And in actual fact, we spend the whole time just talking about comic books because they really want to talk about comics.
Yeah.
And that was great. And those guys are awesome. And again, you know, they're here to help us celebrate.
They are indeed wonderful people. I'm big comics fans, and comics, like music, is the universal language, right? I mean, that's the beautiful thing about both of those art forms. Vivian, do you have any other celebrity memories that stand out? I know that you have a ton of them. Any that rise to the top?
Well, Bruce Campbell, you know, before he signed with us, he would send us book plates that had his personal greetings in addition to the signature. So meeting him in person finally, when he came for a signing tour, that just added to the mystique of Ash.
Yeah.
And then going back in time, Leonard Nimoy, the day he came, he had laryngitis and lost his voice. So we still can't figure out how he managed to sign 1,000 books in less than an hour. To this day, no one has beaten his record. That's a challenge. Ray Harryhausen, he's wonderful. He literally signed every book he ever released at Forbidden Planet. He came in and signed all his previously released books, and then signed all his backlist too. And then in his later years, he didn't really want to do any signings in the store because it was too much. So we'd bring the books to him. And with those sort of sessions, there would come this moment when he'd say in his big bass voice, rigor mortis is setting in. And that was the signal that he'd had enough. And that's when we went and it started having lunch and drinks and all the more fun stuff in life.
Right on. Here.
I'd like to thank all the authors and artists who have popped into FP while they were visiting London, including Terry Pratchett. You know, he used to pop in from time to time, sign his books, old and new. For years, Terry had held the record for the most appearances in FP.
What about yourself, Nick?
Well, I think it might be time for a Douglas Adams story.
The man who's inspired this event, right?
Absolutely. So the origin of our relationship with Douglas was actually created by Stan Nichols, who was our first London store manager when we were in Denmark Street. And of course, Stan is the author of the famous Orcs series. And he'd been listening to this radio show, which was broadcast by the BBC, but at very odd times. So, you know, back in the day before internet, you'd never know when it was going to be on. but somehow he'd always managed to figure out, and he'd watch and listen. He'd listen to the next episode. So when the book was published by Pan, he suggested that we did a signing for it. Now, we had no idea whether anybody was going to really come to it, because it was a radio show and there was no connection between radio and publishing at the time. So we took a chance, and we ordered something like 500 copies of the book, which was like a lot of copies, and it was a Saturday signing. So we turned up when the store opened that morning, and we found 900 people already in the queue. And we went, oh my goodness, we have 500 books and there were already 900 people in the queue. This is going to be a problem. And because it was a Saturday, we couldn't go back to Pan and order more books, because there wasn't anyone there. So I remember that myself and the Forbidden Planet team ran around the West End buying up every single hitchhiker book within a 3-mile radius of the store. So we cleaned out Foyles, we cleaned out, I guess it may, I'm not sure Dillon's was there at the time.
It was Dillon's, I think.
Okay, Dillon's, yeah. So whichever other stores were there had no hitchhiker books left, because we bought every single one of them. And we managed to actually end up getting enough books for all the customers. So ironically, I barely saw Douglas on the first signing, because I was out and about buying up his books. So it wasn't until later signings that we got to know each other. Of course, what a wonderful man he was, and what a brilliant writer. And that was really, that led into ultimately, when we set up the publishing company, wanting to produce a biography of Douglas, but in a slightly different way. And we called it Don't Panic. And Neil Gaiman wrote it. And he did an astounding job actually writing that book for us as Titan Books. And that was pretty much the first fiction, if you call it fiction, because it was a kind of fictionalized biography. It was pretty much the first piece of fiction that we, as a publishing company, ever did.
And just to quickly point out to anybody who doesn't know, Forbidden Planet has a sister company, Titan Publishing, which is Titan Books, and it's Titan Comics. It's also Titan Merchandise, which is collectibles. And that's very much Forbidden Planet's sister company. And correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but Titan Books actually began in the basement at the Denmark Street store. Am I right?
That is correct. Yeah. So in 1981, that was the year that Titan Books was founded, and the very first Titan book ever produced was a collection of Judge Dredd stories by John Wagner and Brian Bolland. And given that we knew nothing about publishing at the time, I went round to Brian's house and we laid the first book out on his kitchen table. And he did the cover for the book. He created a whole new cover for the book and a whole new back cover for the book. They were the most magnificent pieces of artwork.
Yeah, they were.
And that led to probably a 50-book run on Judge Dredd stories. And then, of course, latterly, all the other 2000 AD characters also appeared in collections. So we probably ran well over 100 books in that first line of books before we started publishing other stuff.
And of course, those famous Titan editions are much sought after by collectors these days. And kind of one of the holy grails of Judge Dredd collecting is owning a complete run of those Titan editions. What's next for Forbidden Planet, Nick?
Well, actually, ironically, this is what is next. So we have ForbiddenPlanet.com has actually set up a division to produce online celebrations, of which Forbidden Planet 42, the celebration, is the first. So it's going to be a watch the skies for future celebrations. However, part of that will also be the birth of FPTV. FPTV, Forbidden Planet Television will be devoted to giving customers the inside track on all the new product coming down the line. We'll be featuring interviews, readings, and exclusives, which will be exclusively available through forbiddenplanet.com.
Fantastic. And if you need somebody to host that, I know just the right person.
Vivian.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. Can I delegate it to you?
Yeah, of course you can. Of course you can. I'll be happy to do it. It'd be the least I could do. Forbidden Planet TV coming very, very soon. Thanks for your time, guys. Viv, can I ask, what final words do you have for everyone?
Well, a very special thanks to all our guests and to all the Titan staff who worked really hard to make the celebrations of FB42 so special. And you, to the rest of you, you're in for a real treat.
Yeah, absolutely. They're the people like us, as we say. You know, that's we've fallen in love with that phrase. Ironically, it's become something that has always represented us. You know, when we first came up, you know, when Brian actually, I think, was the one who came up with it. Not only did the what?
Yeah, right on.
Yeah,
right behind Viv.
Brian, you know, the genius that is Brian, actually came up with the people like us shop at Forbidden Planet, and it just came to represent the Forbidden Planet generation. We just really want to thank everybody for coming and joining us for this celebration. Again, a shout out to, you know, all of our creators who are celebrating with us, all those creators who have signed with us all through the years, our staff without whom, you know, there would be no Forbidden Planet, and above all, our customers as well, who are the best customers in this galaxy.
And every other galaxy. Right on. That so true. Well said, both of you. That artwork, by the way, that is behind Vivian's head, that original People Like Us artwork, if you go to the Dave Gibbons and Brian Bolland interview, if you go to the Forbidden Planet 42 interview, Brian has the original artwork for that and goes through the genesis of that art piece. So you'll be able to see it up close and personal. It looks great, to the very brushstroke, in fact. Everybody, please enjoy Forbidden Planet 42.
Thank you, Andrew.
That's great. And we'll see you at Forbidden Planet 42.
Right on. Forbidden Planet 42, everyone.
Yep.